a global community.
Service,
progress,
community, and diversity,
connection,
education for all. Even though LaSalle came to be, I guess, in like 1863, like still in 2020, we understand as students, as faculty, as staff, like we understand what it means to be a Lasallian.
St. John Baptiste de La Salle dedicated his life's work to bettering the poor boys of France who had nowhere else to turn. Today, a diverse community of students representing a myriad of racial, ethnic, religious, and geographic backgrounds energizes and enlivens LaSalle's campus at 20th and Olney, consciously aware of their responsibility as Lasallians to continue De La Salle's work for the betterment of the common good. This is their story.
I think one thing that stands out about the Lasallian tradition is the fact that it is encompassed of the institution of the Christian Brothers, and that's distinct from other religious and educational traditions in that it's a group of brothers rather than ordained priests, and their sole vocation is to be dedicated toward the education toward their students. So while they're also balancing a ministry, it's the focus and their vocation is more directed toward education than sacramental life, as in the case of other religious institutions.
So first and foremost, whenever there's like a large gathering of students, it's always tradition for us to say, St. John Baptiste de La Salle, pray for us, live Jesus in our hearts forever. And I mean, that came from La Salle himself, basically. And so that right there is first and foremost where our tradition continues. But along with that, if you look at like more modern times, we keep traditions alive, like our service trips and service sites. I'd consider all of those Lasallian tradition. Like every year we pretty much, excluding COVID years, every year pretty much we keep the same routine and help the same groups and go to the same places to be our presence there. I think all of that sort of ties into our tradition.
I think the Lasallians are always like the early adopters of like social situations that are happening. We were the first people to offer education to the poor. We were offering education to women. We were offering education to minorities before so many other institutions were. So I mean, I've been doing a lot of research through SGA right now about all the firsts that LaSalle has had, and we have always been like one of the first people to adopt a new program, to include a group that wasn't always included, to hear the voices that weren't heard before. So that's like a recently like a very new way of me thinking about that word, but that's kind of how I've been viewing it recently.
I'm obviously taught material in my classes, but it's so, like I've said before, it's so much more than that. Like it's kind of hard to explain sometimes that there's just like another level to the way our faculty and professors teach our students, and they're teaching to a whole person. They're not just providing information that will help us on exams and pass tests and write papers. They're teaching us to be productive members of society and to take what we're learning in class and apply it to the world and make us better people and help others. So I mean, I've experienced that with most if not all of my professors. I mean, whether it's from a computer class to my major psychology classes to social work and math, like they meet students where they are and they teach us as a whole. They care about our academic success, but they also without even knowing sometimes are able to impact us on many more levels, and make us better students and people as a whole.
So academically, we're a liberal arts college, and personally when I hear that, I'm not a fan, because I like to get things done as fast as I can, whether it be graduating or like meeting all my requirements to graduate. But like with a liberal arts college, we have to take a certain number of credits, which means I finished all of my social work classes that I have could take already, and now I have 3 more that I have to take this semester, next semester, and the semester after. So I have 4 classes basically open for the next 4 semesters. So at first I was kind of frustrated about it, but I think it's kind of cool that I'm now able to I'm taking a poli-sci class, I'm taking a history class, I'm taking an education class, I'm taking a health science class. I mean, at first when I heard that, I was kind of annoyed, but it's kind of cool now that I'm experiencing all these things I probably wouldn't have if I just was able to go through my major and then be done. So academically, that right there is pretty cool. If you look at religiously or spiritually, everywhere you go, you can see students of different faiths. We're a Catholic college, but in no way, shape, or form does that mean every student's Catholic and every student is forced to believe Catholic views. And for that, we have a lot of programs in place that we encourage students to be diverse in their faith. And we encourage students to interact with people of different faiths and to learn more about one another and communicate. And that right there, I think, not really likely to find in many colleges in the United States. And then emotionally, we have so many support groups and support centers and counseling. We have so much to help individuals, because for me, freshman year, college was not what I was hoping it would be, to be honest. First semester, homesick, social anxiety, all of that, culture shock. But there were a lot of people there for me, that some who it's not their job to be there for students, but I'm willing to bet that any faculty member is willing to go above and beyond what they're called to do in order to help a student out. And that right there, again, something I don't know if I could say about every single college in the United States.
The food basket, I feel like that is strictly 100% Lasallian culture. That's so thought-provoking. That's something that even I can't see other schools doing. Neighbor to neighbor, I was a part of that for a while. Just being with students of the neighborhood was so close, so amazing. And I'm kind of going to sound a bit biased here, I'm sorry, but definitely the Student Government Association. I think we get a lot of backlash, whatever it may be, but from somebody who has joined SGA on 3 different occasions, I would say that it took me until my junior year to really see that the Student Government Association is an embodiment of Lasallian values.
I think that it's most in action in UMass, which is University Administrating Services. That's just for me because of how involved I've been with UMass throughout my 4 years, and specifically the Lasallian Immersion and Volunteer Experience programs. I was a participant for 1 year, and then I was a coordinator for the past 2 years, and it really shows students to, take that liberal arts education where you learn about issues of today, and then you can kind of see how those issues play out in the real world, and you can kind of do your part in helping to alleviate some of that, however small that impact may be. So the Lib trips are definitely a prime example for how LaSalle students are really, they're really directly showing how the Lasallian tradition is at work.
So I'm a coordinator for Boys and Girls Club at LaSalle. When I was a freshman, I started going to that community service site. And I had no idea. My brother-in-law graduated from LaSalle 10 years before me. And there was a boy there who's a 7th grader now, who my brother-in-law worked with when he was the coordinator. And me and him were talking, and I was like, by any chance, do you know this guy named Jim? And he was like, no way. And so that right there, I think was very cool, very unique. And it really shows that our students make a difference whenever we go out into the world. Like, we're memorable. And like, even to little kids that was like 4 or 5 at the time, like, remembered my brother-in-law.
You see it within the professors, in the classroom. I mean, the whole reason for us going to college is, to get an education and, further ourselves and our knowledge and, get the degree. But I think that the, Lasallian education is so much more than that. Like, they've somehow turned the process of going and getting a degree to get a job into shaping, college students into better human beings. So, and, that starts with the Christian Brothers, it starts with the faculty, and I think that they have managed to shape LaSalle's community and, future contributing society members into, great people.
When I think of my own mission as it pertains to my Lasallian values are, what can I give back while still continuing to better myself? So I think it's like this balance of personal growth and also helping the world around you grow. And that can come in so many ways, shapes, or form, whether it's through service, whether it's through your professional work, enhancing the experience of not only yourself, but the people around you. And I think just being an epicenter of positivity wherever you go, to call for change, but also bring up what is going well, and just being like a motivator, I think is what I mean for me. As in general, as Lasallians, I think, again, we are that example of the progress. We as students are showing immense progress in all of our endeavors, and imagine like what we're gonna do as we go into the world. We are taught to look at the world critically, see it through the eyes of all of those around us, not just our own. And I think that mindset is going to be an amazing asset to the world as we go out into it. So.
As Lasallians, we're called to be leaders. I think we're called to be educators in our communities. The university places this really big emphasis, at least in my opinion, on thinking critically and kind of thinking about the problems that are in the world and trying to find solutions to better the world. And I think that kind of thinking critically carries over after we graduate and we get into the real world, because we're able to be advocates, not only for ourselves, but for people who are in the community that are unable to advocate for themselves.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like, at first, I just didn't have the best like freshman year of college. But then I found ways like at LaSalle to get involved and to find my group of friends and like to connect, I guess. And so that really made me into the person I am today. Like, looking back 3-4 years ago, I am not who I was before. And I really do have to attribute that to LaSalle. Like, I feel like our tradition and our values and like the way that we go about things is very special to our school. And so an example, like I said, like student activities, everything like that, like ministry and like going on those retreats and going deeper into like my spiritual beliefs and so on and so forth. Like, that's what makes you a better person, or this whole person. And like, for the academic aspect, I have taken classes that interest me and, might go outside of my comfort zone, but that's what's going to make you like this whole person, or, a better person.
Nick, when I came into LaSalle, as a poverty-stricken Puerto Rican individual living in a single parent home. Education was the last thing on my list. The first thing on my list, I needed to get a job to support my father. when I first stepped foot on LaSalle, it was just like, it was life-changing. And it was life-changing to where I didn't even know what I was in for. I know I mentioned about France and me. We've had conversation. I told you about when I went to Mexico. I was supposed to go to El Paso, Texas, over spring break, but COVID prevented that. But still, it was my personhood it changed. As soon as I stepped foot on campus, it was like I seen that statue of Saint John Baptiste de La Salle, and it was like something clicked in my head. Something was like, this is where things are going to change. This is where all the past Christian Camacho is going to flip on its head. I came from another epidemic. I came from the opioid epidemic. I knew that going to LaSalle was going to be a gateway into the life that I believe that God has created for me. So I can faithfully say that St. John Baptiste de La Salle has saved my life, and, you know, experiencing the education of Lasallian in every aspect of my personhood.